Chapter 762 Revolution. No one expected that the Samsara Squad would suddenly launch a rebellion. The entire Blizzard City immediately entered a state of alert. The Combat Command Center building also opened all security defense measures. Zhu Zheng gritted his teeth and opened the communication with Gao Changkong. Gao Changkong, are you going to rebel? Gao Changkong raised a meaningful smile at the corner of his mouth. No, this is a revolution. Zhu Zheng was so angry that he almost smashed the table with one punch. The staff on the first floor were completely dumbfounded. Although they also have armed defense forces with their strength, how could they fight the entire Samsara Squad? There is only one result of doing so. That is death. But they can't just watch Gao Changkong lead people to break through the defense. The scene fell into a stalemate. The guards raised their guns, their faces full of hesitation, and the fear in their hearts had enveloped them. At this time, a steady voice came from the crowd. Okay, let me handle this matters. Everyone looked in the direction of the voice, but saw Wu Jingheng from the security department coming out. Supervisor. Wu Jingheng walked in front of Gao Changkong, just when everyone was sweating for him. Wu Jingheng took out the remote control from his pocket, opened the security restrictions on the first floor and the elevator door. Everyone's eyes were straight. They couldn't believe that this diligent supervisor would do such a thing. He was helping the Samsara team to rebel? The fortress was breached from the inside. No matter how powerful the security measures of the Combat Command Center are, they can't resist the rebellion of the personnel responsible for security defense. Gao Changkong smiled and said to Wu Jingheng, "Thank you, I will do what I promised you." Wu Jingheng nodded, said nothing, and watched the members of the Samsara team get on the elevator. This scene stunned the senior staff. He is also an undercover. Wu Jingheng, he betrayed Blizzard City. This hateful guy, I trusted him so much. Zhu Zheng was furious. Lan Xinchen comforted him. Zhu Shuai, we have 3 layers of security measures, don't worry. When the defense forces of the whole city come, we will definitely be able to hold them back. For safety reasons, let's escape first. The high-level officials of the command center arranged helicopters to deal with this special moment. Zhu Zheng had a stern face. At this time, Zhang Yi and Tu Yunlai were sent away from Blizzard City, and the interior was very empty. All this must have been planned by Gao Changkong a long time ago. Even thinking deeply, it is almost certain that the entire Eclipse incident was Gao Changkong's plan. How hateful. No, I can't leave here. Zhu Zheng sat down steadily, his eyes sharp, and his hands crossed on the table. I am the commander-in-chief of the Jiangnan district, and I must not hand over the command center to traitors. Immediately order all the defense forces in the city to come and eliminate the traitors. Zhu Zheng was calm in the face of danger and quickly analyzed the combat power between the enemy and us. Although the 2 major forces were sent away and could not come back in a short time. But it does not mean that Blizzard City has no defense force. There are powerful aliens in the 300,000 permanent defense forces and armed departments at all levels. Including the guard Sun Lushuan behind him and his secretary Lan Xinchen, they are also masters in the field of aliens. Here, have a good fight with Gao Changkong. At the same time, he had a question in his mind. Gao Changkong, the former national sports hero, why did he collude with the Japanese Ronin and betray the Jiangnan district? Lan Xinchen anxiously advised, but your life's safety is the most important. If something happens to you, what about the entire Blizzard City? What about the Jiangnan district? Zhu Zheng insisted. Escape? Where can I escape to? I'm not going anywhere, just stay here and see what they can do to me. Lan Xinchen's face was full of anxiety. In desperation, he shouted, enter the first-level alert state. At all costs, strictly guard against, and never let them come here. The news of the rebellion of the Samsara Squad spread throughout the armed departments of Blizzard City and the ears of major organizations at the first time. Ordinary people are not aware of the changes here, which is to stabilize people's hearts. For a moment, the smell of gunpowder in the air of Blizzard City became thick. The Yanyan troops, the Defense Army, and the private soldiers of several major forces all began to rush to the command center. They absolutely could not tolerate Gao Changkong killing Zhu Zheng. Because once Zhu Zheng died, it meant that the order that the entire Blizzard City had worked so hard to establish would collapse. In addition to them, the Tengu team hundreds of kilometers away and the Yenyun Guard led by Tu Yunlai also got the news. Tu Yunlia's eyes were wide open with anger. He had just dealt with the people of Jidao Demon, and he and his elite men had also consumed a lot of vitality. What's more, the distance was far, and it would take an hour to rush back even now. But he still did not hesitate. He said hesitantly, "Everyone gather, return to Blizzard City immediately, and suppress the rebellion." The people of Yanyunwei quickly boarded the helicopter and rushed to Blizzard City. After hearing the news, Zhang Yi just muttered to himself, "Did I really guess it?" He had some surprises, but not many. After the end of the world, he had seen too many things like human nature. Betrayal has become the norm. There is nothing strange about it. Everyone is just maximizing their own interests. But he must consider one question. What impact will this matter have on him? After absorbing the essence of Fingguangdi Ren, his strength was restored and became even stronger. But he could feel that there was still a boundary that had not been broken. The members of the Tengu team at the scene were already anxious. What should we do? I didn't expect Gao Changkong and the others to rebel. I can't believe it. I thought only someone as ugly as you would rebel, but I didn't expect Gao Changkong, a guy with thick eyebrows and big eyes, to rebel. What is he doing for? How much benefit did the Japanese give him? Bailey Chongqing was physically and mentally exhausted at this time. Compound number 5 left him with little strength to move. The once strong man was now as skinny as a mummy, and his blood and energy were all drained. But he still dragged his body to Zhang Yi. "Captain, let's go back. Blizzard City cannot be in chaos. If Blizzard City is in chaos, the entire Jiangnan region will be finished." Zhang Yi looked at him deeply, but did not speak, because he didn't know what Gao Changkong wanted to do. What does the so-called rebellion mean? This is easy to analyze. Gao Changkong would not do meaningless things. With the strength of the Samsara team, they can do whatever they want in the defenseless Blizzard City, but they will definitely not destroy Blizzard City. At most, they can kill someone. Will that person be Zhu Zheng? However, if Zhu Zheng dies, there will be Zhang San Li Si and Wang Er Matzi standing up. Blizzard City is not short of capable people, and it can be said that there are elites everywhere. Chapter 763. Attack the Command Center. Additional Update 1. Zhang Yi would not do meaningless things. If Gao Changkong's rebellion was just to kill someone and had nothing to do with his interests, he would not meddle in other people's business. He also did not believe that Zhu Zheng's death would completely mess up the Jiangnan region. And from the bottom of his heart, Zhang Yi was unwilling to collide with a perfect investigation team at this time. Look at the people around him at this time. Eclipse and Tianlong pirates have exhausted all of them. Even if they go to support, not only will they not have enough time, but they are also unlikely to be their opponents in terms of strength, right? Why did Gao Changkong rebel? He asked such a question in confusion. With his status, colluding with Neon Ronin is simply a self-degradation. Neon could not have the courage to plot against the Jiangnan region. Otherwise, once it is confirmed, the Jiangnan region can completely wipe out the land of the god of death. The huge gap in strength between the two countries is here, especially in the martial arts aspect. It's the end of the world, and the relationship between the major forces is no longer the same as before, and it's easy to accidentally fire. Maybe it's really a personal grudge? Yang Xinxin suddenly reminded. Zhang Yi looked at her curiously. After their eyes met, Zhang Yi thought of an answer in her clear eyes. Did Zhu Zheng hurt him? Yang Xinxin smiled and said, "That's not important. Brother, you've already wiped out Eclipse Moon and dealt with the members of the Tianlong pirates. These achievements are enough to make you a hero of the entire Jiangnan region. And let them clean up the mess in Blizzard City themselves." Hearing the conversation between the two, Bailey Chongqing became a little anxious. Zhang Yi, you can't just stand by and watch this matter. If Zhu Shuai is really killed by Gao Changkong and his men, the entire Jiangnan region will be in turmoil. Moreover, He took a deep breath. His breath was already a little unstable. Gao Changkong's collusion with the Neon Ronin can basically be confirmed. He did something worse than an animal. Can you tolerate it? Cough, 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 cough. Bailey Chongqing was talking, and suddenly he covered his mouth and coughed violently, and scarlet blood flowed down his fingers. Zhang Yi supported his body and frowned slightly, saying, "Of course I can't tolerate it. If I can, I wish I could kill him with my own hands." His eyes flashed with undisguised murderous intent. This time, the situation was set by Gao Changkong. If he hadn't hidden his captain-level strength, he would have died under the joint attack of Eclipse Moon and Tianlong pirates. He hated Gao Changkong so much that he wanted to kill him immediately. But now he was not sure that he could win the reorganized Samsara squad if he returned to Blizzard City. At this time, Yang Xinxin reminded Zhang Yi, "Brother, you seem to have forgotten something very important." Zhang Yi raised his head and looked at the cute girl in front of him. "What else?" Yang Xinxin turned her head and looked at the witch who was standing obediently not far behind her. The real core of Eclipse Moon is not Fengguangyuan Ren, but her. After thinking for a moment, Zhang Yi suddenly realized the meaning of Yang Xinxin's words. Mayumi Takeuchi is not a combat-type alien, so Zhang Yi forgot how powerful her ability was for a while, and how delicious her origin is. It is even possible that she is a higher-level alien than Fengguangyuan Ren. But isn't it a pity to kill her? Zhang Yi thought of Takeuchi Mayumi's ability and couldn't help but feel reluctant. A priestess who can predict part of the future and give others the ability to predict is simply the top-level assistant. It's useless, brother. Yang Xinxin shook her head. I can only maintain the ability of the Angel of Desire for 1 hour. After an hour, she will regain her will. No one knows what she will do by then. It's better. She raised the corner of her mouth with a morbid taste. Swallow her. After she said this, she stretched out her hand and shot a black arrow at the weak Canute. Canute's eyes widened and soon killed himself. Brother, after you absorb their power, you can go back to Blizzard City. Compared to the uncertain future, Zhu Zheng's existence is the most beneficial to us now. And once you successfully stop Gao Changkong, you'll get more chips to talk to Blizzard City. Zhang Yi understood. If Zhu Zheng died, perhaps someone else would take over. But with a new commander, no one can guarantee what his temperament will be like. At least now, Zhang Yi and Zhu Shuai are getting along well. And from the perspective of personal grudges, Gao Changkong wants Zhang Yi to die, and Zhang Yi will not be generous enough to forget this hatred. Let me try. He glanced at the seriously injured Liang Yu and Bailey Chongqing. Don't delay. Each of you choose your own prey and absorb it. Next, Zhang Yi narrowed his eyes. Maybe there will be more trouble. Trouble is waiting. The two were seriously injured, and Bailey Chongqing even used compound number 5, which might be life-threatening. However, if the essence of Daikoku and Jin and Tsukamoto Nobunaga can be absorbed, they will definitely be cured. Those two guys are both deputy captains, and Zhang Yi will not compete with them, because he has better ones. Zhang Yi sighed lightly. He walked to the smiling Mayumi Takeuchi, pinched her neck, and directly crushed her to death. Then he put away the bodies of Mayumi Takeuchi and Canute and began to absorb them. Inside Blizzard City, at the Combat Command Center, the killing began. Gao Changkong led the Samsara squad all the way up. The 16-story building was heavily guarded on each floor, including many powerful aliens. Even the worst defenses were elite warriors armed with live ammunition and wearing black overall armor. But all of this seemed so weak and powerless in front of the top combat power Samsara squad in Blizzard City. Gao Changkong had a calm expression on his face, with his hands behind his back and no intention of taking action. The one who took action was his deputy captain, Jiyu Shen. Jiyu Shen, a special type mutant, ability codename Ghost Blade. Information about his ability is unknown. It is only known that he can summon a green sword from the void, and this sword can easily cut through armored vehicles. Jiyu Shen walked at the forefront of the team, moving towards the command room step by step. In the aisle in front of them, heavy footsteps came like an earthquake, and hundreds of soldiers completely blocked the corridor, standing in front of them. The leading major of Yanyanwei said through the cold mask, "The Samsara squadron retreats immediately. No one is allowed to enter here without the commander's order." Ji Yushin held the more than 2-meter-long giant sword in both hands and said coldly, "Don't you understand the current situation?" As soon as the voice fell, he rushed forward like lightning.
Kill.
Major Yenyun waved his hand, and the soldiers behind him formed a battle formation. The huge explosion-proof shield was placed in front, and the soldiers behind him began to raise their guns and shoot. Bullets poured out like a rainstorm. The sword in Ji Yushin's hand just slashed in the air, and the high-speed flying bullets were swept away like plastic. The alloy explosion-proof shield was directly cut into 2 parts, and dozens of defense soldiers were killed in one stroke. Their broken bodies and scarlet blood soaked the entire corridor. Swish! In the corridor, lasers turned into a dense net and enveloped the Samsara team.
Ji
Yushin swung the sword in his hand quickly at the wall. The sword shadows were dense, and green light and shadows swept through the air. The originally hard and thick wall was cut open like tofu, and the laser weapons inside were also destroyed. Chapter 764. Breaking all defenses. Additional Update 2. In the command room, Zhu Zheng was sitting upright on a chair, and the surveillance video of the Samsara squad was playing on the screen. Teams of defense troops and Yenyun guards charged at them, trying to stop them. However, the gap in strength was too obvious. Gao Changkong didn't even make a move, and only a few of his men completely cleared all obstacles on the road. Hold them for me. We must not let them kill us to the command room. Where are the reinforcements outside? Why haven't they arrived yet? Lan Xinqing loudly gave orders in the communicator. Cold sweat had already flowed down his forehead. For the first time, he felt the danger of death. Even though the end of the world has been coming for so long, as an upper-class figure in Blizzard City, he had never imagined that he would die. However, the approaching Samsara squad made him feel the crisis of death for the first time. In the communicator, the leaders of various troops responded one after another. "We will be there soon. Please rest assured, Commander, we will never allow traitors to harm the commander." On the Samsara squad side, Guman noticed the reinforcements coming from the outside world. The piercing sirens were coming from far away and had already come to the vicinity. She smiled slightly, raised her right hand, and snapped her fingers. Just when the support troops arrived near the building, suddenly, they saw a huge black cube appearing around the entire building. The entire building was completely covered by the black cube. "This is the barrier of Gu Man from the Samsara squad." A leading officer looked anxious. Gu Man, a release-type ability user. Ability codename, Barrier. As a top barrier master, her barrier ability is very terrifying. The barrier, she said, is also extremely difficult to break, unless it is an alien with much stronger attack power than her. But now in the city, almost all aliens of this level have left. Only one person is left, that is Sun Luxuan, the guard beside Zhu Zheng. But at this moment, Sun Luxuan must stay with Zhu Zheng to protect his safety. "Blast this barrier for me." A large number of soldiers gathered outside began to find a way to blast the barrier. The dense rain of bullets was aimed at the black barrier, and even blasting was used. But the black barrier was like a diamond, and it didn't move at all. The movement here made the whole Blizzard City fall into chaos. What's that sound? Is there a fight? Why is there the sound of gunfire in Blizzard City? What happened? The people were panicked, but they could do nothing. They could only hide in panic and pray silently that they would not be affected. At the combat command center, Ji Yushin cleared the way with his sword. No matter what kind of defense or trap, he cleared them all. With the defense terrain map provided by Wu Jingheng, they easily avoided many troubles and went directly to the command center where Zhu Zheng was. "Stop! Don't go any further!" An alien blocked them in front of him. He opened his right hand and laid 10 red barriers in the passage in one breath. Ji Yushin sneered and showed his white teeth, then held the big sword and walked forward step by step with ease. Useless, useless, useless. With every sword, a barrier was easily shattered. The gap in strength was too big. The aliens who were responsible for defense here could not stop the members of the Samsara team. Soon, he was killed by Ji Yushin in despair and fear. Gao Changkong looked at everything in front of him and murmured, "Killing is not my intention. If possible, I just want to take Zhu Zheng's head, then reshape the order of Blizzard City." But from ancient times to the present, there has been no change without bloodshed. I will remember you, but at this moment, you must die. A trace of sadness flashed in his eyes, and he was really hurt by this civil war. But his pace forward was just as determined. At the command center, all the staff were sweating profusely. Zhu Shuai, they have reached this floor. How to defend? They are just technicians. If the Samsara team kills them, they can only wait to die. Lan Xinqing rushed to Zhu Zheng. "Zhu Shuai, let's go." Zhu Zheng said lightly, "Do you think we can really escape? Even if they get on a helicopter, they will be shot down by the Samsara team. Modern weapons and equipment are not as useful as imagined in front of a powerful alien. Moreover, the building was already covered by Gu Man's barrier, and no one could escape." Sun Luxuan slowly walked up to him, bent down and said, "Zhu Shuai, let me pass." Zhu Zheng nodded. "Well, go." Sun Luxuan raised a smile. "Speaking of which, I haven't made a move for a long time. If this bone is not used for a long time, it will easily rust." He doesn't look tall and even a little thin. But no one dares to underestimate this strong man, just because he can always be Zhu Zheng's personal guard. This point. That's enough to explain everything. Sun Luxuan turned and walked out of the command room. A white light flashed, and he closed the door of the command room with his backhand. At this time, the passage had become bloody. The last guard unit defending here had been killed, and broken limbs were everywhere. Sticky scarlet blood stained the walls and ceiling. Ji Yushin held the huge sword in his hand, and his snow-white skin was covered with blood. He looked like a devil from hell. When they saw Sun Luxuan, everyone stopped. They knew Sun Luxuan. Gao Changkong smiled and looked at him. "Even you have been dispatched, which means that this is Zhu Zheng's last line of defense, right?" Sun Luxuan looked at Gao Changkong coldly. "Gao Changkong, I really didn't expect you to betray. The consequence of your doing this will only be self-destruction. Don't you understand such a simple truth? Betraying the Jiangnan region is betraying the Huashu kingdom. Then the only consequence is death." Gao Changkong heard the words, and the corners of his mouth rose slightly. He asked jokingly, "When will you guys who are so high and mighty and treat ordinary people's lives as nothing, be able to represent everyone? No point in talking anymore. Today, all of you rebels will die here." Sun Luxuan's hands naturally dropped down, and the light in the space behind him suddenly distorted. The extreme darkness enveloped everything behind him. From his sleeves, 2 black clouds of smoke spewed out and spread behind him. When you look closely, you'll find that it is not smoke, but countless black filaments, which emit a faint glow and have a kind of soul-stirring horror. Chapter 765 Go and Kill Gao Changkong. Facing Zhu Zheng's personal guard, Gao Changkong did not dare to be careless. But he had no intention of taking action. Instead, his deputy captain Ji Yushin stepped forward. "Mr. Sun, let me see your skills." Sun Luxuan frowned and said coldly, "You? Haha, no matter how useless I am not someone a deputy captain can mess with. Are you trying to delay me with your own life?" Gao Changkong smiled and stepped forward, putting a hand on Ji Yushin's shoulder. "Mr. Sun, don't underestimate him. It's possible that he'll give you some surprises. You should know that my ability is death is reincarnation. So I can use my ability to deduce again and again in reincarnation." Gao Changkong asked with a smile. "Guess how long I have been preparing for today?" A cautious look appeared in Sun Luxuan's eyes. "What do you want to say?" Gao Changkong continued. "Of course I know that there is a person like you around Zhu Zheng. So I have deduced again and again, and fought with you again and again. I have already figured out your ability." He looked at Ji Yushin beside him with some pride. "And he is the one I prepared specifically for you." Sun Luxuan's heart sank suddenly. He certainly knew what Gao Changkong's ability was. If such a person spent a lot of time and energy to plan something, no one could guard against it, because he can have countless opportunities to fail and then start over. But his opponent only has one chance. If he loses, he will really die. You don't really think that you can beat me with this, right? Sun Lushuan was not disturbed by Gao Changkong. As a top-level strong man, a firm mind is the most basic ethics. There is no need to beat you. It's enough to hold you back, Gao Changkong said with a smile. Ji Yushin had already dragged his huge sword and rushed toward Sun Lushuan. The black threads in Sun Lushuan's hands became more and more violent. Come on, I want to see if you have the ability to hold me back. Ji Yushin slashed down with a sword, and the whole floor burst into a dazzling green light. After a few seconds, the green light disappeared from the original place. But Ji Yushin and Sun Lushuan both disappeared. Sun Lushuan suddenly felt that the space around him had changed. This was a green space, surrounded by a vast expanse of green, and nothing could be seen. Only he and Ji Yushin were in this space. Ji Yushin raised the giant sword in his hand and pointed it at Sun Lushuan's head. I named this ability Solo. Isn't it cool? You can't escape this space before killing me. So, don't think about disturbing the captain to kill Zhu Zheng. The expression on Sun Lushuan's face instantly became like a ferocious, evil ghost. He stopped talking nonsense, and the black threads in the sky shot towards Ji Yushin. It's useless, old man. Ji Yushin laughed and swung the giant sword in his hand at a high speed, flicking away the thousands of black silk threads. The captain said that in the hundreds of reincarnations he simulated, my best record was just a tie with you. But you must win, and as long as I don't lose, this battle is over. Sun Lushuan roared. Then I will kill you first, and then kill Gao Changkong. The black silk threads in his hand were very tough, and they were all life-threatening and soul-stirring blades. Soon, these dense silk threads spread all over the space around Ji Yushin. Under this kind of blockade, no one can escape the slash of infinite wire blades. But Ji Yushin restrained a smile on his face and said coldly, by the way, let me tell you something. My strength is also at the captain level. Zhang Yi once had a guess. If a person can really trigger reincarnation infinitely, then the time and experience he has will be far ahead of everyone else. In this way, even if he is a waste, he will become a strong man in the long years. Gao Changkong can not only do it himself, he can also help those around him to do it. Ji Yushin is the unpolished gem he discovered. Now he is nominally the deputy captain, but he has long possessed combat power that is not weaker than the captain. The Samsara team has a total of 2 captain-level combat forces. This is the capital that they dare to show their swords to the top management of Blizzard City. Sun Lushuan was dragged into the solo field by Ji Yushin, and it is impossible for him to appear in a short time. Gao Changkong walked to the door of the command room. The corners of his mouth raised slightly, and there was a little excitement in his heart. Then he stretched out his hand and pressed on the door. The tightly closed metal door was pushed open by him effortlessly. Everyone inside looked at him with complicated expressions. There are many fans of Gao Changkong among the staff here. They don't know what kind of expression should be used to face this former hero, today's traitor. Lan Xinqing stood in front of Zhu Zheng. Gao Changkong, are you really going to do something treasonous? Do you know what the consequences of doing so are? Gao Changkong ignored Lan Xinqing. He just looked at the staff in the command center, raised the corners of his mouth, and showed his usual smile. It's time to get off work. Everyone looked at each other, not understanding what Gao Changkong meant by this. They looked at each other, and their eyes finally fell on Zhu Zheng. At this time, Zhu Zheng was their backbone, and also Gao Changkong's target. Gao Changkong continued, I'm here to find Zhu Zheng, and no one else has anything to do with it. You can leave now, otherwise you may get hurt by mistake. Lan Xinqing heard this and angrily scolded, Don't be a traitor here. None of us will succumb to you. A traitor? If you want to touch Zhu Shuai, you have to get through us first. As he said that, he shouted to everyone, Come on, come with me, protect Zhu Shuai. When the people in the office heard this, few people really rushed forward. What a joke, Most of them are civilians. How can they have any fighting power? Rushing forward would only lead to their death. Seeing that Gao Changkong would not kill them, they naturally wanted to save their lives. However, there were indeed a few people who rushed to Zhuzheng, thinking of taking a chance and turning a bicycle into a motorcycle. Although it was very dangerous to do so, once they survived successfully, they would have the opportunity to be reused by Zhuzheng in the future. Lan Xinqing stared at a black-clad guard and said to him, "Go and kill Gao Changkong." The black-clad guard looked at him in disbelief. Me? Lan Xinqing was furious, picked up his collar, stared at him, and asked word by word, "Don't you want to die for our great commander?" The black-clad guard was sweating profusely, not knowing how to answer this question, but he did not have the courage to really challenge Gao Changkong. Zhu Zheng's eyes were always on Gao Changkong. "Gao Changkong, answer me. Why did you betray? Why did you conspire with those damned Japanese Ronin to deal with our own people?" Zhu Zheng's voice became louder and louder, and finally, it was like a scolding. He could accept Gao Changkong's rebellion, but he would never tolerate alliance with alien races. Gao Changkong smiled contemptuously. "Ronin? They are just my tools. Even if Deng Shintong died and Zhang Yi was defeated, I would kill them with my own hands in the end. It's just that something unexpected happened. But it won't affect the final result." Chapter 766, Righteousness and Hypocrisy. In Gao Changkong's original plan, Deng Shintong had to die. Deng Shintong died, but he naturally took on the task of conquering Eclipse Moon. In this way, he could become the most prestigious person in Blizzard City. Then he could get closer and closer to the core of power. Finally, he only needed to create an accident and kill Zhuzheng, and he could become the new commander of Blizzard City. He could create a brand new Blizzard City in his own way. Unfortunately, Zhang Yi did not die, but successfully killed Eclipse Moon. Then, Gao Changkong's Plan A failed, and he could only implement Plan B. Take advantage of the emptiness inside Blizzard City and kill Zhuzheng directly. Zhuzheng stared at Gao Changkong coldly. "From the beginning, you were the one who planned everything, right? You were the spy in Blizzard City. It was because you leaked the information about our operation that the encirclement and suppression operation of the God team failed. Even Zhang Yi was ambushed by the Eclipse Moon and the Tianlong pirates because of you," Gao Changkong said in a brisk tone. "Well, you are worthy of being Zhu Shui. You reacted so quickly. However, you woke up a little late." His eyes fell on the others. "Why? Do you want them to stay here and be buried with you? I don't like to kill innocent people. They are all very good talents. They will be needed in the Jiangnan district in the future. The only person I want to kill is you." So, he looked at the others. "Do you really want to die with Zhuzheng?" Gao Changkong's eyes were questioning, and his mouth was smiling gently. But no one would doubt that he was joking when he said he wanted to kill everyone. The atmosphere in the office was already a little weird, and some employees even began to tremble. In the face of life and death, some employees finally couldn't help it. A woman cried and shouted, "I want to leave. I want to get off work." Gao Changkong made way very gentlemanly. "You can leave now." The woman did not dare to look back at the eyes of Zhuzheng and Lan Xinqing and ran out crying. With her leading the way, the others were also dominated by the desire to survive and rushed out of the door. Zhuzheng closed his eyes and waved to several hesitant subordinates around him. "You all leave. Their target is me." Several people were relieved, and after receiving Zhuzheng's order, they whispered, "Take care, Zhu Shui," and then followed others out of the office. In the end, only Lan Xinqing remained by Zhuzheng's side. Maybe it was because he didn't want to escape, but more importantly, it was because he and Zhuzheng were already bound together. As Zhuzheng's secretary, once Zhuzheng died, he would lose everything in Blizzard City if he was still alive. At that time, the new commander-in-chief would also regard him as a deserter. Instead of dying miserably at that time, it is better to fight now. Gao Changkong looked at Zhuzheng, who was sitting on the chair and facing him. "Now, let me send you off." Zhuzheng, commander-in-chief. Zhuzheng looked at Gao Changkong, his face stern, and asked in a deep voice, Can I ask, what is the reason for your rebellion? How has the Jiangnan region wronged you? Here, you have everything, and you are admired by everyone. And what can you get by betraying us? Gao Changkong's mouth corners became more and more curved. Ha 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 ha. He suddenly laughed. Zhu Zheng, until now you still don't know why I want to kill you? I see. It's true. In your eyes, a small person like me, everything is insignificant and insignificant. He laughed, and his eyes became cold. I just want to remind you one thing. After the apocalypse, my parents also died because of the regulations you issued. They are all over 60 years old. They have no ability to survive in the apocalypse. It was your order that drove them out of Blizzard City. From that time on, I have been thinking about killing you and the high-level officials of Blizzard City who made the decree with you all the time. Zhu Zheng closed his eyes helplessly after listening to Gao Changkong's words. So it's because of this. But under the circumstances at that time, doing so was an inevitable choice. We didn't have the ability to feed so many people. The entire Jinling had a permanent population of 15 million. As the disaster spread, residents of surrounding cities also began to gather in Blizzard City. Everyone hopes to bring their family and friends to this Doomsday fortress to let them survive. If we don't take measures and only let those who can provide higher value survive, then the final result will be that everyone will die together. Zhu Zheng's tone became firm. So, your parents are the same? After listening to Zhu Zheng's explanation, Gao Changkong clapped his hands. That's a good explanation. You are worthy of being Commander Zhu Zheng. You are really fair and honest. You deserve respect. If you really did it this way, then I might be able to understand it in my heart. But you didn't. Gao Changkong's mouth flashed with sarcasm. Do you dare to say that you have the same standard for everyone? You are almost 60 years old this year, and you are not an alien. If you were not sitting in this position, you would be too old to do much physical work. Your family still supports your wife and son, and they don't have to participate in labor. And there are many high-level officials in Blizzard City. Are they the same as other ordinary people? What value do they provide so that they and their families can live a pampered life in Blizzard City? Gao Changkong's voice also rose by several decibels. The tall walls from S District to E District in Blizzard City are natural barriers between classes. You didn't give everyone fairness from the beginning. In your eyes, those of us from E District are inferior people. And now, my personal commander Zhu Zheng, you are about to die, but you sit here and keep talking to me about fairness. Don't you think it's ridiculous? Gao Changkong looked down at Zhu Zheng from a high position. He laughed wantonly and mocked Zhu Zheng. He spoke the words he had been holding back for half a year, pouring out the hatred and unwillingness he had accumulated for a long time. At this moment, his heart was filled with joy. He finally didn't have to keep his tail between his legs. Zhu Zheng was speechless after being confronted by Gao Changkong. After a long time, he slowly said, "There are some things you should understand. If the water is too clear, there will be no fish." Absolute fairness is difficult to achieve in itself. He needed to gain the support of some organizations in Blizzard City, so he had to give them privileges. Gao Changkong took a deep breath. After he finished speaking the things that had been suppressed in his heart for a long time, he felt much better. No one is born superior. Just like now, your life is in my hands. He vented his inner emotions, and now Zhu Zheng could die. Chapter 767 Return of the Mourner. Gao Changkong raised his palm and pointed it at Zhu Zheng's head. At this moment, what he was going to do was as sacred as killing a god. By beheading this false god, he was going to change this world full of lies and deceptions according to his own will. Kill Zhu Zheng first, and then wipe out the entire Blizzard City's high-level officials. That is, those who were already in high positions before the end of the world. Only by overthrowing everything and starting over can the order of this world be reshaped. This is the greatest significance of the end of the world. But just as Gao Changkong was about to make a move, a familiar voice came to his ears. "Gao Changkong, you miscalculated." In the shadow of the command room, light flickered, and the dazzling white light made everyone lose their sight. A white light turned into a door and slowly opened. A tall and handsome man in silver combat uniform and long silver hair slowly walked out of the light door. Deng Shintong, who was supposed to die in Jiangning City, magically appeared between Zhu Zheng and Gao Changkong. Not only him, but behind him, more than a dozen powerful aliens wearing silver armor also came out one by one and stood behind him. Among them was Bai Chunyu, the deputy captain of the God team. The other dozen aliens were covered with special armor, and their faces could not be seen clearly. It was just from the powerful aura emanating from them that it could be felt that these people were definitely not weaker than the members of the investigation team. Gao Changkong narrowed his eyes when he saw Deng Shintong suddenly appearing on the scene. Deng Shintong, long time no see. You are still alive. The appearance of Deng Shintong surprised Lan Xinqing. But he found that Zhu Zheng's expression was indifferent, and it was obvious that he had known about this matter for a long time. He secretly breathed a sigh of relief and relaxed a lot in his heart. It turns out that Zhu Shuai had already prepared for it. It seems that even I was kept in the dark about the whole thing. How could Lan Xinqing know that all this was the layout of Zhu Zheng and Deng Yuanbo? After the second encirclement and suppression failed, they had confirmed that there was an undercover agent of Eclipse Moon in Blizzard City. If this problem is not solved, they will not only face pressure from the outside world, but also chaos may occur inside. Therefore, the two conspired and made a plan. The emptiness that appeared in Blizzard City today was also deliberately created by Zhu Zheng. The purpose is to let the rebels jump out by themselves. Zhu Zheng sat calmly in the chair, looking at Gao Changkong with a little regret. What a pity. Why did you rebel? It is too difficult to train a captain-level alien. This is related to talent. Even if there are enough resources, it is difficult to train if you can't find a suitable carrier. Gao Changkong's rebellion, whether this battle is lost or won, is a huge loss for Blizzard City. It's come to this, why say more? Gao Changkong said lightly. Deng Shintong looked at Gao Changkong in front of him. I have wanted to fight you for a long time. Last time, you used the Eclipse Moon to plot against me. This time you didn't expect me to be alive again. This time, it's my turn to kill you. Gao Changkong smiled. He asked in return, Deng Shintong, do you still remember what my ability is? Deng Shintong narrowed his eyes and smiled. Death is reincarnation, but this is false. You have not reported your abilities to the organization truthfully. You concealed your true abilities. What rebirth after death? It's all fake. No one can play with the cycle of life and death so easily. You can't do it, not even the higher level Epsilon. Because it is not your own time and space that is twisted, but the time and space of the entire universe. This is the realm of God, not the realm of man. So you deceived everyone. I also don't believe that you can be reborn after being killed by me. I have studied you, including all your mission information. I think I already know what your real ability is. Deng Shintong smiled brightly, like a blooming flower. In fact, your ability should be deduction, right? You can use all the known information to deduce what will happen. This looks very similar to reincarnation, but it is not a real experience. And the results of the deduction will also be different from reality and cannot be completely consistent. Deng Shintong's smile became deeper. He adjusted his white gloves. There were gorgeous golden emblems on the back of the gloves, which looked elegant and luxurious. But today, have you deduced me? A dead person? Gao Changkong sighed lightly. I didn't expect that my ability has been seen through by you. You are right, I really can't reverse life and death. But his smile became deeper, and he looked at Deng Shintong with a smile. I can still see reincarnation. And at the end of reincarnation, I saw your existence. He slowly opened his eyes, and a pure murderous intent emerged. Today, you have a dead look on your face. Deng Shintong smiled faintly, and he reached out and pulled out a military adamantium made from his waist knife. Want to kill me? Can you do it? Among the 6 major investigation teams, only you are not a pure fighting faction. You don't really think you can beat me, do you? Gao Changkong of the Samsara team, the real ability, Samsara deduction. He can deduce all the future that is about to happen based on all the known information. The premise is that it must be centered on a certain person. And today, the object of his deduction is Zhu Zheng, because the person he wants to kill is Zhu Zheng. But the sudden resurrection of Deng Shintong is not within the scope of his deduction. In this way, Gao Changkong's ability has lost its effect. And without the advantage of this ability, his own combat effectiveness may only be at the level of deputy captain. Deng Shintong has a smile on his face. His expression is a little arrogant, but his eyes are extremely focused. In half an hour at most, Tu Yunlai and Zhang Yi will be back. It would be best if I can kill you rebels within this half hour. Even if I can't do it, I can delay the time until they return. No matter what the result is, you are doomed to fail. Gao Changkong sighed lightly. Didn't you understand what I meant? Your appearance was also within my prediction. His words made Deng Shintong's heart tremble slightly. What do you mean by this? Gao Changkong looked at him and said, I never thought that you would be killed by a wretch like Ronan. He spread his hands. Your appearance today was also within my prediction. Deng Shintong said in surprise, knowing that I'm still alive. How dare you? Because I don't care. Gao Changkong interrupted him directly. He suddenly smiled. Deng Shintong, I also want to ask you a question. If I have been planning to take revenge on the top leaders of the entire Blizzard City from the beginning, guess, will I expose my true strengths? Also, a friendly reminder, my ability can't be used only once a day. This video ends here. I really appreciate if you like, comment, and subscribe to the channel so that you get more updates. Thanks.